We have him back. Bob, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great, great. Welcome to the program, sir.
Oh, glad to be on.
Okay. Bob, what I wanted, let me introduce you because we really did not know when we were going to be on. Bob Fitrakis is a political science professor in the Social and Behavioral Sciences Department at Columbus State Community College, where he won the Distinguished Teaching Award in 1991. He was a Ford Foundation Fellow to the Michigan State Legislature in 1975 and studied at the University of Sarajevo on a scholarship in 1978. Fitrakis earned a JD from Ohio State University, Mortis College of Law in 2002. His PhD is in political science from Wayne State University in Detroit. Also, Bob has in 2006, Bob ran as an independent candidate for governor of Ohio endorsed by the Green Party, and also as a candidate for Congress in the 12th District in 1992. Bob, I want to know, was Ohio the state that George Bush had to get in 2004?
George Bush and every president in U.S. history except John Kennedy. Now, no Republican has ever won the presidency without winning Ohio. Had John Kerry won Ohio in 2004, he would have been the president.
Okay. Now tell me, what happened in Ohio that, you wrote some articles and you wrote a couple of books and a lot of articles, you and others, about how the Bush administration steal America's 2004 election. How did they do that?
Well, it's pretty straightforward in American politics. There's a few levers that you can push. The first thing they did, of course, was simply the massive targeting of minority voters. African Americans vote 90% for the Democratic Party. So they purged 305,000 voters, primarily in the inner cities of Toledo, Cleveland, Cincinnati. Another 10,000 people were accidentally, or so they tell us, wiped off the voting rolls by what they call a computer glitch by Diebold, a company that the CEO at the time was loyal to George Bush and had been a major contributor and had visited Bush at the Crawford Ranch. That person was Walden Odell, or Wally Odell. He actually sent out a fundraising letter saying that he was going to deliver Ohio to President Bush. So they really began to purge voters. And then they began to target and harass voters. They data mined. They went out and got, public records on who had parking tickets and who was on probation, and they called people up and threatened that they'd be arrested if they went and voted. And finally, in Columbus where I live, they failed to put out 125 voting machines, causing 4 to 7 hour waits. At Kenyon College, which was for voting for Kerry, people waited as long as 12 to 14 hours in order to vote. And finally, I believe ultimately in the Republican Southwest counties, they simply stuffed the ballot box in traditional old-time American politics.
Okay. So now these incidents that you talked about, where they called people and told them, "Don't go, you're going to be arrested," is that documented somewhere?
Well, there's a 911 call at the Columbus Police Department where a conservative night clerk, who actually was a Republican, called the police on one of the members of the mighty Texas Strike Force, which was a unit that came into town that was claimed to be reporting directly to Karl Rove. And we have numerous documentation, affidavits. People were being called up and being sent to the wrong polling places. In fact, in Ohio, one of the things J. Kenneth Blackwell and the Republicans did is they closed a lot of the inner city polling places or moved them. So, for example, I live a tenth of a mile from a school where they vote, but I've been assigned more than a half a mile away on a completely different street. So this causes tremendous confusion, because where you think you should vote, and logically you should vote, is not where you vote in Ohio. So numerous calls, people swore under oath and swore out affidavits that they'd been directed to the wrong polling place, where they often waited 4 to 7 hours and then were told to start over again.
So there is a case for an investigation, I would assume, in Ohio?
Well, there was a case, Moss v. Bush, which was an election challenge, but that didn't go far because it only could go forward until the president's inaugurated. But there's a current case, King Lincoln Brunsville versus J. Kenneth Blackwell, the former Secretary of State, who also happened to be the co-chair of the Bush-Cheney re-election campaign. And there is, in fact, a case that's pending against him, which has volumes of evidence showing massive election irregularities.
So why are these, Bob, why are these cases are not moving fast? Why are they dragging?
Well, partly because the Democrats never really, I mean, John Kerry conceded with 250 uncounted votes. So the Democrats, for whatever political calculations, fearing Bush, feeling they couldn't win, never put any resources. So a lot of these cases have really been done at grassroots level. And in order to go forward with a case, you've got to go out and do research. So I spent nearly a 2-year period from November of '04 till August of '06 investigating the election results all over Ohio, going into the warehouses. It would have come a lot faster had we actually got help from the Democrats, which we didn't.
So why, okay, now, the presidency is an American institution. It is not John Kerry's and it is not George Bush. So the people have a right here with who actually won the presidency. Because, you know, at the end, it is a job that the American people are electing that particular person into that office. Why do you think John Kerry and the Democrats decided, okay, that's it? Because apparently somebody, the powers that be out there somewhere, they wanted George Bush under any cost. So could that formula be, it's like the same people who are the handlers, let me call them, they were handling both presidents and they told John Kerry, that's okay, just go ahead and concede?
Well, I think he was given advice. You know, Bob Shrum and other people, James Carville told him that he would be perceived as a sore loser unless, he stepped
But this
down.
is not about personalities, though. This is the right of the people. This is, like I said, the president, the office of the presidency we own, as citizens of the United States, we own that, not the president.
Sure. No, I agree with you totally. Kerry was reluctant and refused to call the American electoral process into question, in the same way he refused to, call American foreign policy into question. I mean, the reality is Kerry's lawyer was a Mr. Hofheimer, who actually works for the Taft family law firm, Taft and Phineas. So it's quite odd on one level, and I got more than one calls from people who study elite groups like Skull and Bones saying, don't you think it's odd that the Taft family has supplied the lawyer to Mr. Kerry, and then Mr. Kerry and Mr. Bush, are in this society they have loyalty to and won't speak of, and they seem to have a gentleman's agreement that Kerry will simply walk away.
Okay. Do you think that have anything to do with the war that was waging at the time, that the job was not finished and Kerry might take the war into a different direction?
Well, Kerry hadn't indicated his willingness to do that, but he'd been a longtime critic of U.S. foreign policy, and he had, exposed some of the actions of BCCI and the Bush family's connection, to various shadowy apparatuses around the globe. So, I often ask myself is why didn't, Kerry fight? John Edwards surely wanted to fight, and, I don't know the answer other than he wasn't willing. He's a member of the elite himself, and he appeared to be unwilling to challenge the American status quo and people with power in this country.
Now, if what took place in Florida actually took place in Ohio with the recount, do you feel confident that Kerry would have, and if, of course, not just the recount, but of course, a lot of people were not allowed or were prevented from going to the polls, and I also saw some documents that there was some improprieties in these electronic machines themselves, that people questioned the legitimacy of their results. Taking all this into consideration, and if there was a recount, do you feel comfortable that Kerry would have won Ohio?
Yeah, I think the exit polls are the best indicator. I mean, people coming out with polls that, are accurate to within 0.2%, and that showed, Kerry winning by about 4% on election eve, and then he ends up losing by almost 3%. Really an unheard of shift from what voters were saying and from what was actually counted. Every time I've counted the ballots, what you find is that Kerry has far more votes and Bush has far less than was officially recorded. And also in counties, when I was up in Miami County, Concord Southwest, on the southwest side of the state, they said 679 people voted, 68% for the president. But we only found 547 voters who signed in. And plus some of these numbers were just ridiculous. Clyde, Ohio, they said voted at 131%. Two precincts in Delaware County voted at 124 and 120%. So every time we've counted, and in fact in my book, we show the calculations. And if you include those that were, forced to vote provisional ballots, those that were illegally turned away, Kerry would have won with about 4% of the vote.
Okay. Any political offices in your future that will you be running for any political office?
Well, I really ran for governor in part to get people inside of the polling places. And you have to have statewide candidates in order to get in. So at this moment, I'm not thinking about running for anything, but I never ruled that out. I'm hoping that some of these Dems and a few of these Republicans continue to get a backbone and stand up to the president on the great issues of the day. I mean, I'm just still stunned that I live in a country where private companies secretly control the voting machines and claim they have proprietary rights to the software. I mean, we don't even know how our votes are being counted, and we're also engaged in torture and suspension of the writ of habeas corpus. So there's a lot of things that need to be done, and if there's a movement out there that really wants to do something about it, I'd be glad to run.
Now, Bob, isn't there there was like a connection between these companies and the Bush campaign as far as the electronic voting machines?
Well, that's the latest thing we found out, is that the Republican National Committee, JWB.com, George W. Bush's site, the voter vault, all of these were being hosted, including Ohio's election numbers, in a basement in Chattanooga, Tennessee, in the old Pioneer Bank building. So essentially, all the software was configured by a Bush partisan at Smart Tech, and about 400 of these pro-Bush web hosting sites were all tied in together, which really gives them the capacity, should they choose, to rig the vote count in Ohio. And this just came out because of the missing email scandal. When we looked at this, we said it's almost like somebody flipped a switch and shifted the numbers at the last second. But then the notion was everyone said we were conspiracy theorists, and that could never happen. Now we know they have the apparatus in place with Smart Tech, and that the Secretary of State in Ohio, J. Kenneth Blackwell, who co-chaired the Bush-Cheney re-election committee, actually outsourced the vote counting and tabulation to a private Republican-connected firm in Chattanooga, which in many ways creates the capacity for them to electronically steal the election.
Now, do you see, the Democrats now are pushing for impeachment and other issues like Dick Durbin of Illinois. He came out with, saying that they knew the intelligence that the Bush administration used to go to war against Iraq was false from the beginning. They knew it, but he was sworn to secrecy. And now, of course, he's using this for political reasons. Now he's saying that, he sat in the Senate room frustrated that he couldn't say anything at the time, in 2002. And now with all these attacks, do you see a reviving might take place in Ohio to use Ohio for impeaching George Bush?
Well, I think there's a case to be made. I think it came right out of the White House. And I think, Karl Rove's email will tell the tale. The president flew in here unannounced into Ohio on Election Day, and suddenly there's a last-second upset. I think it should be investigated, and I think any real investigation will show that they stole the election in Ohio, and that's just one of many of Bush's crimes, along with Dick Cheney, including the rigging of the intelligence, the torturing of people in violation of the Eighth Amendment, and the suspension of the writ of habeas corpus, and other things. The illegal invasion of Iraq in violation of the UN Charter and Geneva Convention.
Okay. Can you stay with us, or you have, because I think you're doing something, or can you stay a little bit longer?
No, I can stay.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, good. So let's assume that the Democrats would use Ohio as, and they probably, if they don't bring it up now, they might bring up the issue of Ohio later. Are you, knowing that this could be a Democratic agenda just to basically gain some momentum here, will you be pursuing that with the Democrats if they want to? Will you be helping the Democrats to impeach George Bush or bring up the Ohio case? I guess, you have done a lot of research on that. So where would you stand on that issue?
Well, I don't want to be perceived as being partisan and helping one party or the other, but I think that there are people in the U.S. House and Senate, particularly Republican Chuck Hagel, for example, but Democrats like John Conyers who know exactly what happened in Ohio. And I would be willing to help, the House or the Senate to investigate this. And I think there's people across the political spectrum. I don't see impeaching Bush as something that merely helps the Democrats. It helps the conservatives and the Republican Party who can't stand these neoconservatives around Bush as well. So, I think is that I'm willing to give all the data that I have to anyone, including anyone that wishes to criminally prosecute these people, because this was theft. This was blatant voting theft.
Now, you think George Bush was involved in this, or his campaign?
Well, I really think this goes to Karl Rove. I think this goes to, Bush's brain. But on the other hand, Bush has to know. He's the one that Karen Hughes told him he had lost the election. He sent his father to bed. He was a defeated man, and suddenly, in the past midnight, suddenly all the numbers reversed themselves, and the numbers appear to be cooked down in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and they're all on the same server. I think it wouldn't take much at all to impeach the president and criminally lock up Karl Rove in this situation. So I don't know how he couldn't have known. He was briefed that he lost the election.
Okay. Now, do you think that America of today has the strength and has the people who would prosecute these people like Karl Rove and George Bush, Dick Cheney, all these people. Do you think we have enough mavericks out there that would gain up some momentum to do that? Do we have enough prosecutors?
Well, I'm not sure that.
Do you think it could happen?
I think at the local level here, we have a good attorney general in Ohio. We've got some prosecutors here. I mean, these people committed crimes. Once you realize that the crimes that they've committed, and election theft is, again, from my perspective, one of many. I mean, John Hopkins Medical School tells us there's 675,000 dead Iraqis because of an illegal invasion. There's well over 3,000 dead U.S. troops. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that this administration needs to be held accountable for. And I think when, your polling numbers are only 28%, when only 28% of the population approve of the job you're doing, I think,
Bob,
leaders and the prosecutors will, in fact, go after them.
Bob, but I mean, I know there is a case to go after them, but do you think do we have a system to go after them?
Well, I think unless there's a tremendous push from ordinary citizens at the bottom, that it's really, really hard to push people in Washington. But the Bush administration has so alienated the American people, and quite frankly, the people of the world, is that I think if we can get a movement going, that the Bush administration can be brought to justice.
If they don't get brought to justice now, do you think in the future, I mean, I don't know, I know you have a JD degree, do you think people can go, let's say, 10 years from now and prosecute these people?
Well, a lot of statute of limitations will apply. All I know is that here in Ohio, we're going forward. We have a variety of options. We have a civil suit against his co-chair, Ken Blackwell, the Secretary of State. We've got a trail of evidence.
Why not a criminal, Bob? Why not a criminal suit?
Well, I think if we can settle this case and get the state of Ohio to investigate with John Conyers, I think a criminal case can be made. And if not a criminal case, a civil RICO, which is similar to a criminal case. It's for essentially organized crime on a civil level. And I think that's another possibility, that the president and his aides could be, in fact, convicted of organized crime, civil violations, and be forced to pay massive fines to the people of Ohio. But I would prefer criminal.
Okay. Well, Bob, I just want to say thank you for coming on the program. It has been interesting to hear all this. I'm sure a lot of people out there, they knew something was wrong with Ohio, but they did not know the specifics. So I wanted to thank you for coming on tonight and sharing your knowledge with us.
All right. Well, glad to do it, and a lot of articles on freepress.org. And really, it's old-fashioned thuggery and new high-tech thievery. So people got to become aware of what they're doing, that private companies linked to the Bush family and the Republican Party control the voting machines, the hardware and the software.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.